Welcome to What's Your Story? I'm your host, Charley Timmins. Every week I bring you a guest who's authentic and genuine with ideas and insights that they'll share so that you can put them into use in your business or your personal life today. And today is no different. My guest is Amy Andersson. Amy is the founder of Price Turner CFOs, and she's a CPA that does not do tax returns. Interesting. And let me read here specifically that she works with small to medium-sized companies to provide operational accounting so the company owners can do what they went into business to do and concentrate on doing that, not the numbers. So that sounds to me like it's an oxymoron. You don't do taxes and you're a CFO. So Amy, tell the audience, what is it that you do?
Okay, Charlie, thank you so much for having me here.
My pleasure.
As a CPA, I do no taxes, but I do not want to fill out the forms. I want to talk to the business owners and to get to know them. And that way I can help them in many better ways. So I don't do income taxes. I know them, but I don't do them. What I do instead is the operational accounting.
So what's operational accounting consist of?
So if you think about a company that has an internal accounting department, that's what we do. The operations of sending out the invoices to the clients, to paying the bills, to receiving those payments, maybe calling the client for collections. That's a type of operational accounting that my company does as well. We also take care of the sales tax.
Oh, that's a big issue.
It is, especially now with every state wanting all their revenue. So sales tax is a big area in every single state, and a business owner may not know the ins and outs of those sales taxes for this state versus the other state.
So do me a favor and try to explain to the audience the difference between your business model and others that are out there that sound similar.
Charlie, we're unique in a couple of ways. The first one is we're virtual. I have clients who are in Kansas, in California, Pennsylvania, New York, everywhere in the United States. I also have team members who are here in the United States as well. We don't do offshore bookkeeping. The third area is we have an ownership mentality. And what this really means is we're business owners as well. We are looking out for that business owner.
I'm going to stop there. Can you give me an example of what that looks like?
Please, I'd be pleased to. I had a client who had been having an outsourced accounting experience. And when I started taking over, I noticed that the receivables, the invoices were really outstanding for this client. And I started looking into why. Well, it turns out the outsourced accounting had prepared the invoices properly. There was one issue. They hadn't distributed them.
Ooh.
So the clients never received those invoices. So what did we do? We got on the phone with those clients and explained the situation. Not only did we do that, we also, again from a business mentality, is when that extra cash was received by the business owner, we also set aside the money that was necessary in order to pay the income taxes related to that. So again, we look at the business as a whole.
Short-term and long-term.
Short-term and long-term.
You had mentioned several things that differentiated you. What else?
Well, the other area is, like I just mentioned, we know income taxes. We're not going to prepare them. But in that example, for example, the business owner was getting $200,000 extra that had not been anticipated in terms of cash. From a tax perspective, Uncle Sam wanted that. Not only Uncle Sam, also the state wanted that revenue. We had to make sure that from a cash flow perspective, the business owner had that set aside so they could actually take care of those taxes in a timely manner.
So give the audience a sense of the kind of organization, company, profit, nonprofit, whatever, that is an ideal fit for you?
The ideal fit is a business owner who went into business for a product or service that that business owner can sell. Business is about selling, all right? Non-profits are still in the matter of selling. They have to get the money in. Right. So they just spend everything that they've received. They don't have to pay taxes. That's the difference with nonprofits. It's still a business. And so what happens is the business owners that I work with, they have integrity. They recognize that they need an accounting department, but they may not need it full time. They need the financials taken care of. They don't need their significant other doing the accounting. They don't need their brother sending out the invoices. They don't need a sister calling to get those collections. They need somebody independent who can work properly in a business manner in order to send out the invoices, to collect the money, and to call if necessary. And also to pay the bills when appropriate, when the cash is going to be there.
When you were talking earlier about the fact that certain invoices were not sent to a client for collection, I can imagine that's a source of embarrassment. And as an owner, I don't want to be the one calling to explain it. I can have you do that on my behalf so that my relationship with my clients remains at a high level. That's what it sounds like.
That is exactly how we handled it.
Oh,
yes.
So that's a real benefit to the owner.
It is.
You were in public accounting. Could you sort of share people the journey that caused you to pivot into this line of work?
So I was in public accounting, and then I went to work for Fortune 100 companies, very large companies in both the accounting and technology area. And then, as often happens, life gave me a bubble. Gave me quite a few mountains to climb. I was laid off twice in 12 months.
Oh, wow.
I was newly divorced.
Ooh.
Had my own mortgage, therefore. Mm-hmm. 2 kids in college. And I was a breast cancer survivor. Oh. And I was over 50.
Wow.
So
you are an optimist.
I was an optimist, and I looked at that. Oh, and by the way, this was just a few years after the recession. So everybody else was out of work at the time, too. So I looked at this and said, okay, I now have to do things for myself. I have to figure it out for myself, how I'm going to make money, how I'm going to have my health, and how I'm going to live. So I started a company. Why not? Right? That was 8 years ago. And it's been fun. I've made a few mistakes, but it's been fun.
So tell me a little bit about why you named the company Price Turner CFOs. Can you share that?
I will. As I said, I made a few mistakes. Some of those were because I named the company totally incorrect with what I was doing. And I recognized that I needed to have a name that spoke who I was and what we did.
And I would suspect what you stand for.
And what I stand for, absolutely.
Right. Okay.
So the Price Turner CFOs came about because I was born Amy Price Turner. That's my name. Amy is a given. Okay. The Price, when people hear Price Turner, they automatically think of PricewaterhouseCoopers. It lends integrity. It lends authenticity. It tells people it's an accounting type of company. I also started my career with Coopers & Lybrand. So that brings in what I stand for as well.
PricewaterhouseCoopers, that's what it is today, right?
Right, PricewaterhouseCoopers. So that's the Price. The other thing that Price is, for me personally, is as a given name, it was a family name. It was a commodore in the Navy, the British Navy. Ooh. And my father was an ensign in the Navy. And my mother's father was a rear admiral in the Navy, a 2-star rear admiral, who's buried at Arlington National Cemetery, by the way.
What an honor.
And that Navy background, although I never was in the Navy, gave me my entire upbringing of integrity. And that's one of the biggest things. Then the third part of it is Turner. Again, that's a family name. It shows of the values that I have. The first one being integrity, and the second one being family, and the third one being health. The final question in the company name was, do I make it CFO singular or CFO plural?
Yeah, it's plural.
It is plural because I wanted to grow the company.
Oh.
It's not just me. I have a team of bookkeepers, and I also have a team of CFOs who are available to help out as well.
So behind all that information, there's something that drives you to do this well. I call it the why. Why do you do this? What's the purpose behind you doing this? Besides earning a living.
Yeah. The why for me is I've always wanted to serve. And as I said, my relatives were in the Navy. I'm now an active member of the Upper Main Line Rotary, which motto for Rotary is service above self. That serving of people is really where I enjoy it. And when you serve people, you get double that back. The go-giver mentality. Yes.
So you've combined the two, the fact that you've taken your expertise, which is numbers, and how those numbers affect business owners, and then this added sense of service to other people and being committed. So this isn't just a job.
No.
This is almost a calling for you at this particular point.
It really is. And I knew that I liked numbers early on. In high school, I was actually the treasurer of 2 clubs I was in. And I'm the treasurer now of the Rotary Club. I've always been in those numbers. And that was when I looked again and kind of started my own business, so what do I like to do? For me, it's always about the numbers and the systems.
Well,
Yes.
another thing, they choose you and trust you with their numbers.
Absolutely.
That says volumes about what you're radiating out in terms of your own integrity and the fact that you're in it for them versus in it for yourself. To do
Correct.
this. We need to take a break. We need to hear from our sponsors. When we come back, I want to hear a story or two of some of the real benefits that some of your clients have had from your advice. So stay tuned. We'll be back with Amy in a few minutes. Keep watching. Thank you.
Sharing with everyone you know while increasing your personal and company's brand awareness. But what is your brand? According to Forbes, it's a combination of your logo, your product, your design and feel, and your personality. Did you know that aside from being a guest, we offer even more opportunity to boost your brand? Adding your company logo and website on screen during your interview will allow viewers to recognize your brand instantly. Incorporating images and video clips is another great way to showcase your product during your live segment. Let viewers see how good you really are. And most importantly, there's you and your interview. For less than the cost of a newspaper, direct mail, or a magazine ad, you can leave our studio and within 48 hours have a permanent digital copy of your live segment to link to your social media, embed into your company website, or use in email marketing. Investing in your brand is so very important, and we can't wait to have you as a guest.
Shelter dogs aren't broken. They've simply experienced more life. If they were human, we would call them wise. They would be the ones with tales to tell and stories to write. The ones dealt a bad hand who responded with courage. Do not pity a shelter dog. Adopt one.
Say we've got grit, and we'll take it as a compliment. Because it's our uncommon drive, our spark within, that brings us together and sets us apart. We are temple made. And when others take shortcuts, when others take breaks, when others take the easy way, we take charge.
Add us on social media to watch bloopers, behind-the-scenes footage, previews, and more.
Welcome back to What's Your Story? I'm your host, Charley Timmins. My guest today is Amy Andersson, an oxymoron. Amy is a CPA that doesn't do taxes, but she helps her clients make money and grow their business. So we want to learn more about that. So what kind of expectation do these clients have of what you can do for them? You may have alluded to it earlier, but let's compress it and
Absolutely.
concentrate on it.
So business owners, as you know, go into business to sell a product or a service that they are passionate about. Just like I'm passionate about numbers, and I have a numbers business, business owners do the same thing. Sometimes, though, they can't get away from the numbers because, of course, that's an important aspect of it. But if you know business owners, they delegate web design to other people.
All the time.
They
Right.
delegate the social media.
Right.
Why not delegate the financial aspects of it as well? It doesn't mean they're abdicating responsibility. It just means they're delegating that. And when you delegate to a team such as Price Turner CFOs, which stands with integrity, they know it's being done right the first time.
And you've been at it for a while, and you have a client list that is a great referral base, so they know going in that odds are in their favor. You know, this sounds like you're a business partner to that owner. You're not just a vendor. Does that resonate with you?
Absolutely. If you look on my website, partnership is right there. We are definitely the business partners with the CEO of the business. Let me tell you a story on how, or one of the areas where a client has worked with me as that partner.
Okay.
The client was a staffing company, temporary staffing in an engineering area. And as any business owner, they were ripe for opportunity. And they saw an opportunity down in Arizona
To acquire a company or to?
to actually have staffing, engineering staffing people, employees for an outside client.
Okay.
So great opportunity, or so they thought. So before they signed the contract, they actually called me. Why? Because we're a partner. And they said, oh, Amy, I'm looking at doing this. What do you think? So we looked at the numbers and looked at the ramifications of that person being in Arizona. When you have employees in Arizona, you have to pay various taxes to the state of Arizona. And we looked at this and looked at the margins that were going to be there, and turned out that it was not going to be profitable to have one employee there. When it got to maybe 10 employees, it may have been profitable. But we worked out that break-even analysis, and then my client was able to go to his client to say, okay, we're not ready yet, but we will be when you grow.
So the value I see from that story is, one, you knew about taxation other than the state in which you do most of your business. You understand business because you've worked in Fortune 500 companies, and you understand regulations because you were at a global CPA firm.
Yeah.
So you brought all of that together for those people. So what would your clients say the value proposition is that you deliver? It should be obvious, but I'd like to hear it from you.
It really is the fact that I keep them out of jail.
That's interesting.
Yes.
Expand on that.
So if you think about it, the financial aspects of a business can really get you in trouble, right? And that can be in so many different ways if you don't do things correctly, all right? So I make sure, and I mentioned integrity many times, I make sure my clients have the integrity to do things properly. And I make sure from a financial area that they are continuing to do that.
So you mean integrity, they have integrity before they meet you, not that you put them into integrity.
Correct.
Okay, I get you.
It makes, I look at my clients, and if they don't have integrity, they're not my client.
Oh,
I want to have clients that I can partner with, and integrity being the value that I have, it's very, very important.
chances are you walked away from some business because of those principles.
I'm happy to say that I have, yes.
And those that remain with you? How about retention? Your clients?
Very high, probably about 90%,
Wow.
yes.
So expansion for you would look like what?
Expansion is additional clients, those clients who, again, have the integrity and are growing, okay? And the limitation is not there. I can hire part-time bookkeepers because they are part-time. I can hire additional CFOs. The point is that companies are out there that are still doing their books and records, and they shouldn't be.
Any other stories you want to share with the audience that you think might serve as a great example of the benefits?
I do. Another client of mine knew they had to charge sales tax in New York.
New York State.
In New York State. It was an item, and again, they knew it. They were doing this properly for about 20 years. And then they had some cash flow issues within the company, primarily because the owner's husband was no longer working. So this company was now their full-time job, if you want to call it. And they had to get all of their personal expenses being paid for out of the job, as well as all the business expenses. And it wasn't happening quite the way they had wanted. So when I came in, I'm looking at this, and one of the things I first realized was that the sales tax, again, this is where it can get you in trouble, the sales tax was going directly into the operating account, and therefore was being spent on personal items.
So no.
It is a no-no. When I said about keeping people out of jail, so we immediately set up a separate account for the sales tax and paid the sales tax to the state. Again, the sales tax people, the income tax people are very particular that you have to pay that. You don't get a reprieve. And if you don't pay, there are lots of penalties related to that.
So I would imagine if I represent a governmental agency and I come calling, the fact that the owner has a person like you in their corner demonstrates to those regulators or government agents that there's really no real intention to obviate the law, but to really comply with it.
Absolutely.
So that is another added advantage. What I'm taking away from our conversation is you wear a lot of different hats. You know, there are a lot of different roles that you play with your clients. So talk about that a little bit.
Okay, so one of them, I've mentioned the word before, is partner. Okay, definitely a business partner.
I see that clearly.
The other is a minesweeper.
A what?
A mine sweeper.
Sort of like laying mines that blow up?
I clear the way, so similar to those sales tax issues. I make sure those are not going to be something that they step into that suddenly blows up in their face, because it could. Mm-hmm. I make sure that they're kept away from all of that. The other is a cheerleader, because they might want to expand and they don't have somebody else to talk to. If the business owner does not have an outside person and they're trying to expand, and there are always going to be ups and downs in any business as a business owner. Again, those peaks and valleys are always there. And I let them know from a cash flow perspective, from a energy perspective, yes, you're doing the right thing.
So if I were a business owner and you were my business partner, and I said, listen, I have a lawn care business, and I get an opportunity to buy a piece of equipment, $30,000 piece of equipment for $15,000 cash, you'd be the first one I'd call.
Absolutely. Please do. Yes. Okay. I actually have a landscaping business, and your example is spot on, because he's got the latest lawn mowing equipment. He also, of course, had to buy a trailer in order to do that, and the other pieces. And what we look at is, okay, does that make sense? Is he going to save money in labor expenses by buying this other piece of equipment, which will automate some of what they do?
That's well beyond the numbers.
It is.
I get it.
Yes.
You work well beyond the numbers with people to do this. Just, I'm curious, who do you like to hang out with? So here's if you were to have a dinner with people, living or dead, who would you like at the table with you?
There are three people that I would love to have at the table. One is Abraham Lincoln.
Integrity?
The other is Michelle. The other two are Michelle and Barack Obama.
And the reason for them at the table?
I believe that they represent a lot of what is good in the world. Did you know that Michelle Obama just received her PhD in law?
Wow, how old is she?
She is a little bit younger than I.
Wow, that's really a commitment.
Yes. And they are doing things that are helping the world. They're serving.
Well, we're going back to your commitment.
Going back to the serve.
To your serve. Listen, we have to bring this to an end, unfortunately, but I really want to thank you for your candor and your openness. Very important to our audience that you are that way. But this is an opportunity for you to look into the camera and talk to the audience, give them some additional advice. Maybe you may want to have an offer that you'd like to make to them. So, time's yours.
Okay. Well, first of all, though, I'd like to thank you, Charlie, for having me on the show.
It's an honor.
To the audience, do you know a person who is in business who is still doing the books and records by themselves? They went into business for a passion that they had, which was probably not the numbers. They went in it to sell a service or sell a product. However, they may now be struggling because their financials are not the best thing that they do. Have them go to my website. You can see it down here, Price Turner CFOs, and click on the teal button, and that will set up a complimentary session with me. Again, Charlie, thank you so much for having me on the show.
Well, it's a pleasure. Listen, I can't think of a reason why an owner wouldn't want to have a conversation with you. They probably have all their financial matters covered. They're happy with it. But to get a second opinion, to get a different set of eyes looking on it because of the variety of people you deal with would be very worthwhile. So thank you for coming on the show, and thank you for being so direct and honest with my audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie.
Again, I'm Charley Timmins and your host on What's Your Story. Next week at this time, we'll have another guest. They're authentic, they're genuine, they're going to share insights, they're going to share practical ideas that you can put into use in your personal and professional lives immediately. Thank you. Next week, we'll see you. Be well.